Did any of you have that one movie you remember that just looking at the case on the shelf for it scared the absolute bejesus out of you? For me, that movie was Fright Night. As a kid, I still remember going into my local video store and seeing that case on the shelf. It drew me in, but it also terrified me as well. And out of every 80s horror classic, this one to this day still invokes those same emotions every time I see it. Fright Night came out in 1985. Weird how my first 3 entries into this series are from 85, isn't it? This movie was written and directed by Tom Holland, who would later go on to write Child's Play and Thinner. He wrote the movie in just 3 weeks, and it is said that it made him laugh the whole time. Mr. Holland, sir, you are my kind of horror nerd. The movie is part of play on the old folk tale The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and is a love letter to the old Hammer and Universal horror films. The movie is very relatable to your standard horror hound, as the story centers around Charlie Brewster, played by William Ragsdale. He's your typical horror nerd, who's always up for a good late night scare, but little does Charlie know that a real life horror movie is moving in right next door in the form of a vampire, Jerry Dandridge, played by Chris Sarandon. Now, no one believes Charlie until that is his favorite late night horror host, Peter Vincent, played by the legendary Roddy McDowall from Planet of the Apes fame. But I think I'm going too much into the plot here, so not to give away too much of the movie, but let's just say the two unlikeliest of vampire hunters join forces to rid the world of the undead and break the vampire's curse. Now, this movie came out in a decade that was ruled heavily by slasher films, but this movie breathed new life into the classic vampire genre of horror movies. It didn't make the vampires beautiful with their fangs out. Instead, it made them more monstrous and ugly and somewhat undead looking. Something that a lot of vampire movies are too afraid to do, and that's due to their reliance on the old adage of sex sells. But if you want to see some of the greatest practical effects ever, in my opinion, then give this movie a watch. You won't be disappointed. Oh, and did I mention that it has the best reverse transformation of a werewolf ever in film? Oh, it does. This movie still holds up to this day in terms of story and effects, as it is one of the best horror films of the 1980s that wasn't a slasher, but it does get overlooked for other vampire fare like The Lost Boys. But if you haven't seen it, then like I said, do yourself a favor. Get some popcorn, a soda, some candy, a blanket, or cuddle up next to the one you love and give this one a watch. You won't be disappointed. I want to say again, thank you guys for joining me for the 60 Days of Fright. It's been your old buddy John, and I'll see you again next time on Behind the Fiends. Ooh.